Hello, I'm Kevin Crawford with Kevin Crawford Consulting, and we're here with Dr. Relly Nadler, and our subject today is the disruptive team member.
Well, every team's got one, if not many. So what do you do with a disruptive team member? Give me some of your thoughts, and then I'll share some of my ideas.
Well, the first question that comes to mind for me is always the why.
Yeah.
Why are they disruptive? There's always a why behind the behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
And so trying to figure out what that why is the first step for me. Because if I can't identify the why, I can't fix the behavior.
Right.
But I'd love to hear your thinking on this.
Yeah, I would agree. And so we're really talking about executives, we're talking about leaders. How do they figure that out? And so part of that is whoever the disruptive member is, to really sit down with them and basically say kind of what's going on. You're in the meeting, what's not happening? I like to think, Kevin, it's about certain needs. What needs are not being met by this disruptive member?
Mm-hmm.
Are their ideas not heard, or they were heard but nobody's moving forward? There's things going on about that their sense of who they are is being not getting what they want. And so I think the leaders got to really tap into that and find out that why from them.
And that's one of the things that's really challenging with executives,
right?
Is that they don't see that as being part of their job.
Right.
And part of what we do at Kevin Crawford Consulting is get them to understand that whether you like it or not, you are an amateur psychologist.
Yeah.
Because if your job is really to get the most out of your people in the organization, you have to be asking those why questions. But they really are reluctant to do that.
And so why do you say they're reluctant? I have my thoughts, but why do you think that they're reluctant?
I think it's a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
To explore that. They don't feel trained. They don't feel as though they have the experience to do that. And I certainly didn't in my positions.
Right.
But giving myself an expectation, a personal expectation, that I really needed to understand the why before I could ever effectively solve the problem was the first step. And then the other thing that I notice is there's a lot of executives, senior executives, that just don't want to tackle it. They work around these issues.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable. Let's have HR deal with it. It's really on their shoulders. And that's where sometimes there's a skill deficit. We've talked about the imposter syndrome. I don't know what to ask. What if they give me a response that then what? They're in this uncomfortable realm. It's too easy to avoid it. Let's hope that they kind of work it out on their own, this disruptive member.
Right. And I'm not sure if the HR professionals really make it easy for the executives to walk into this, unfamiliar territory, because they'll kind of push back and kind of, bind in the executive where they don't go down this way. But, for my money, and certainly when I was in those positions, it's part of my responsibility.
Yeah.
Because I'm obligated to get the best performance out of that person. And if there's a hindrance there, we need to explore that.
So what does that conversation sound like? You got the person, and many executives aren't even doing enough of these one-on-ones. Now they're in the room. What does that sound like?
Yeah. It's trying to find a place where they feel safest to expose what's really kind of bothering them. So it's not heavy-handed. It's not lording over them. It's not pointing out, you didn't do this and you didn't do this and you didn't do this. But it's, hey, I noticed, and see where those kind of conversations go. But getting back to the earlier point about executives being reluctant to really dive into these performance issues, I always drive it back to some data, and the best data in this particular case is their job description. If you're seeing behaviors that are inconsistent with a job description, you anchor it in there because there's no wiggle room. And then you kind of have the conversation on the table.
The only thing there is a job description doesn't necessarily highlight these behavioral things that I think is happening in the meeting, where they're disagreeing, they're heeing and hawing, they're rolling their eyes, they're tapping their foot.
True.
So part of that would be, and when I work with someone, so what's your conversation with them? And I think just that sense that we've talked about empathy, having someone in the room and say, tell me what's going on. I'm concerned. Something's happening. We want you. We need you. It just seems like you're not as focused as you've been before. Is there anything that's kind of going on?
And I think another part of that is letting them know that you're a partner in that.
Yes.
Wherever they happen to be, that a good executive, a good supervisor is there to partner with them through whatever is giving them difficulty.
Right. And so I think a big part of that is you're talking about the task, you're talking about deliverables. You really need to have some time in every conversation with them. How's it going for you? Where are you with your workload? What's happening for you? It all impacts them and their workload. If you're not creating time, which I think many executives don't create enough time for that.
And I suppose another part of that is what the support that I want to give you, is that effective? Are you getting the support from me to perform at the highest level that you need? And it seems as though, again, back to vulnerability that we've talked about before, if you kind of own some of that stuff, it really breaks down walls.
Yeah. I just want to underline what you said because that was beautiful. And for the people listening to it, are they saying that? Are you getting what you need enough from me for you to be your best?
Yeah. And I think that turns it from underperformance to perhaps my underperformance.
Yeah. What could I do to better help that?
Right. If you'd like to continue this conversation with the executive mayor, contact us at kc@kevincrawfordconsulting.com.